day, everyone. In this video, I want to talk to you about Taoism. This is going to be a short introduction to it, but my goal is that by the end of this video, you'll know what it is, and you'll hopefully be interested in it. For me, it's maybe the most interesting subject that there is in the planet. I've just been massively captivated with it over the past year or two. It started from me taking Taoist herbs, and then that led to being really interested in Taoism itself. And so I'll get into that more later, but it's a very, very complex subject, which I'm going to cover in a lot of future videos on this channel over the coming years. That's really the main reason I started this channel, is I really want to put out a lot of information about Taoism that people can just get for free, and really have it explained in a way that they can understand as a Westerner, because I'm really learning a lot about it every day. I study it a lot. But yeah, it's very complex, so I can't do it complete justice within like one video. I mean, I can just give you an introduction to it and let you know kind of what it is. Taoism is an ancient Chinese system of understanding the universe and understanding the world and humankind and why we're here and nature. It's kind of like a superstructure that the Chinese invented over a period of thousands of years. It goes back at least 5,000 years. You may have heard of the Tao Te Ching, which is pretty much like the Bible of Taoism, written by Lao Tzu. And Taoism, I would say, falls into the category of like alchemy. It's internal alchemy. It's basically refining who we are inside ourselves. And if you look back at cultures, ancient cultures, every single one that I know of had a system of alchemy. Whether it was like the Celtics or the Egyptians, definitely the Hindus, and a lot of their stuff still exists. Unfortunately, a lot of the Celtic stuff was not written down. The ancient Chinese wrote a lot more stuff down, but like the Celtic stuff, the Druids were actually kind of similar to the Taoists. I mean, they were a society that had massive understandings of, the world and astronomy and stuff like that. But the stuff was not written down; it wasn't preserved. So Taoism is a lot like, say, what the Druids had in Celtic society. But as far as what it is, you probably heard of like yin and yang. You may have heard of the 5 elements. These things are kind of like, a lot of Taoism is permeated into Western culture, and it's in a lot of our literature in different ways. I mean, you may have heard of the law of attraction. That's kind of, from what I read, a Taoist concept, going back, thousands of years, that's kind of gotten co-opted by Western, writers and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you get into Taoism, you get into like a lot of the source wisdom that a lot of what we read is based on. So the Tao itself is best described, I think, as the life force. I mean, it's the force around us. It's the force that created the world. It's the force within us that creates our own personality. And it can have 3 different polarities. It can be yin, yang, or yuan. And yuan is neutral. Yang is like positively charged. Yin is negatively charged. And a lot of what, say Qigong is manipulating the life force and using that to create, using that to our advantage. Making sure we don't use it to harm ourselves, because that's really what the universe is. It's just collections of forces, positive and negative. And so Taoism, it goes back 5,000 years of history. There are different sects of Taoism. I mean, different lineages of it. And so you can, if you study with one Taoist master, he may teach you a lot of different stuff from another Taoist master, but the general kind of principles are the same. And Chinese medicine is basically derived from Taoism completely. I mean, the Taoists pretty much invented it. Chinese medicine is based around like the 5 seasons, the 5 elements. which is like the lung element, um, which is autumn season, color white, liver element, which is color green, spring season, stomach spleen, which is yellow, and that's pretty much like Indian summer, like between summer and fall. And then get the heart, which is summer, and that's red colored, and then kidneys, which are blue colored, and that's winter season. And that may not mean that much to you right now, but I definitely want to do a lot more videos on that subject later. But pretty much the five elements are uh, a way of understanding what, like how chi moves and how it flows. Because like in the fall, chi is descending. And chi is going down into the ground for the winter. In the winter, chi is descended. It's completely down. In the spring, the chi is rising. In the summer, the chi is high. It's up. So that's really, and that's kind of a structure that they use to, diagnose people's health problems, because they may say, well, you don't have enough liver chi, or, that kind of thing. And it's all within, the understanding of that there's yin and there's yang. And yuan is not something I've come across other than in the work of Michael Winn. But that's the neutral force. And that's incredibly important, because the neutral force is what we want to have guide our life, because that's our original force. That's like the force that we have when we're born, and before it's affected by the world, affected by our own views. So I'm getting a little bit probably too complex for you here in this first video, but suffice to say, like, Taoism is something you can delve into really deeply, and you can learn a lot about your life and how to make it better. Just even in this 21st century Western society, the same principles apply. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you a few Taoist concepts here. One of these is called Wu Wei. Wu Wei is basically the art of doing nothing. It's the art of kind of less is more. The less you do, the more happens. And the Taoists believe that if you stand aside, you're actually going to get a lot more benefit by doing that than, say, if you're trying to swim upstream. The idea for the Taoists is just to ride the wave, and it'll, even if it's not going to the right place, it'll find the right path eventually if you just ride the wave and kind of stay with it. The concept of Wu Wei is something I found kind of hard to implement, but since I know about it, I'm able to kind of guide my life toward being able to implement it. But you really have to know, you really have to be kind of advanced to really make that happen, I think. But that's kind of a goal of mine, is to live my life in a state of Wu Wei. A big obstacle to Wu Wei and living in that state is what the Taoists call the monkey mind, which is basically our conscious mind, our everyday mind that we're in every day. Thinking about little minutia and what is wrong with our life and stuff like that. The Taoists were really anti the monkey mind. They thought all it does is get into trouble. And so they taught that you should really minimize that. They talk a lot about bringing your mind into your dantian, which the dantian is the stomach area right below the navel, which is the energy center of the body. That's the center of gravity. For women, it's like a little bit higher, I believe, because the breasts, and the center of gravity is a little bit higher. But so those are kind of some important concepts of Taoism. Taoists believe in simplicity. I kind of think about Apple Computer and the way their products are really simple. but yet underneath them there's all this complex coding and stuff like that. But they run really simply, and that's kind of the way the Tao is. I mean, it's about simplicity. It's about being in harmony with nature, and you know, pretty much everything that the West, I mean, the way we live is anti-Tao. You know, because we're completely, for the most part, removed from nature. We're completely in our monkey mind all the time, and that's really what the Tao, everything the Tao is against. And if you look at people around you, they're not happy. You know, at least the people I'm around are not happy. And I really think if we turned to the Tao more and lived according to that philosophy, we could change ourselves a lot. But I will say this, you know, I've been trying to live according to Taoist principles for 6 months to a year, and it's very hard to make the shift, especially when the world around you is not interested in making that shift at all, and they don't even know, you know, what it is. I mean, it takes some guts to really try and do something different, but I've made my life a lot better by living according to these principles, and at least just trying to do it every day a little bit more and a little bit more. Now the Taoists, I've kind of touched on this in other videos, but they believe in principles. I mean, basically like forms that a life force can take. We got Jing. Jing is basically the prenatal force that we're born with. It's stored in our kidney area, and that's like our core battery force. You can nurture that force with herbs, with you know, certain exercises, you know, complex Taoist practices and stuff like that. That's probably the most important force that you have, because when you don't have that anymore, you're dead. I mean, that's what you're running on every day. You have Qi. Could also be spelled QI, but it's CHI is the more recognized Western spelling of it. That's like the energy that's coursing through your body right now. It's like, you know, on top of my arm right now is Qi, like Wei Qi, running on the outside of my arm. And that's what we as Americans have a lot of, because if you look around at people, they're constantly go, 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 you know, they're constantly hyperactive, you know, doing this, doing that. That's Qi. But yet they're exhausting their battery pack at the same time. So as Americans, we're really deficient in Jing, but we have a lot of Qi. And so I guess the general idea would be to conserve your Qi and build your Jing. Qi is also what they manipulate through like acupuncture, which is also something else derived from Taoism. And then we've got Shin, which is basically the I guess you would call it our consciousness. I mean, the Tao actually believes that the Shin is stored in the heart, which is kind of counterintuitive, because I've always thought of our consciousness being in the mind. But to the Taoists, you know, the heart is a mind. The Dantian, the intestines, the gut, that has a mind in it. And then the mind upstairs in the head is more for like observation and stuff like that, ideally. But the Shin, you know, according to the Taoists, is stored in the heart. And that's pretty much our consciousness, our personality. It's something that, you know, you try to refine by building Jing. It's kind of like the last step in building your internal alchemical self, is, you know, building your Shin to a high level. But you have to have plenty of Jing and Qi first. Ron Teagarden, who's actually a great herbalist, kind of uses a metaphor of a candle, and he says like the wax is the Jing, the wax that burns off, you know, from the candle. The fire is the Qi that's burning, and then the light is the Shin. And that's pretty much the best description of it that I've ever heard, so I'm going to stick with that one. So yeah, these Taoist herbs are to refine these treasures. I mean, they call them treasures. Um, I really want to recommend to you a book that I think. I mean, well, first of all, I'll recommend it to a teacher. Sorry you can't see this too well, but my marker is a little bit bad. Um, Mantak Chia is basically where I've gotten a lot of this information from. He has out about at least 45 books, and it's a lot of books. I mean, you can get them actually for your Kindle if you have an Amazon Kindle, and they're absolutely amazing. They're true, 100% authentic Taoist teachings in the form of a book. And this Mantak Chia is he's actually in Thailand, but he's from China originally. And growing up, he went to Hong Kong for a while and lived there, and met a Taoist master, and basically got this whole Taoist master's teachings transmitted to him before he was even I think 18 years old, and he's actually learned a lot since then. So he's absolutely brilliant, and his teachings are amazing. Um, Michael Winn is one of Mantak Chia's first students. He is a Westerner. Um, he actually is from, I think, Asheville, North Carolina, and he's got a whole set of books out, or not books, but basically they're audio tapes, audio CDs, and a few DVDs and stuff like that. And he's a great source for real, authentic, amazing Taoist teaching in a Western format. And he's just absolutely, I think, a massive genius. I mean, at what he does, he may be the best in the world. He studied every system of internal alchemy out there, and what he's putting out. I mean, I've gotten to the second level of his course, second course that he offers, and he offers at least 10 or 15. So I'm barely even scratched the surface of what he has. But he's kind of taking Mantak Chia's teachings and making them a little bit westernized and blending them with what he's gotten from other different philosophies of alchemy. And this book is one that I would recommend if you're wanting to begin your studies of Taoism. This book it's under Mantak Chia's name, but it was written by one of his other senior students who goes by the pen name of William Wei. And this book is just a lot of straight up philosophy. The first 4 chapters in particular are what I've gotten the most from. I mean, after that, it gets pretty advanced into levels that I haven't got to yet. But I would recommend picking up a copy of that book. And he's a very poetic writer. I can verify that everything he writes is completely authentic and true. And so that's probably where I would start, in addition to however many of Mantak Chia's books you wanted to get. Mantak Chia also has DVDs out. PacificDao.com, I believe, is the website where you can buy those. But so there's pretty good synopsis of Taoism. I'm going to do a lot more videos on this and just hone into specific concepts. Thank you.